Well, if it's your end zone, then why am I in it?
It was something stupid. It was small. It was fun, but to us, it was a big deal.
It was one of those things where you like, damn, this is different.
I think he like pointed at Cam, and then it was like game on.
I knew in that moment that it wasn't anybody else that football team trusted in that spot more than they trusted me.
That was a catch. I mean, if you saw enough TV angles to tell you that was a catch.
The story goes like this.
The word Carolina really had no significance in the NFL. We're very rarely on any Monday Night Football or the prime game because we were the Carolina Panthers. We weren't the Green Bay Packers or the Giants.
I remember like the first home game I came to, I'm sitting with mom, we're like getting ready for the game, and it's like pregame. Top Cats are doing their pregame routine and everything like that. I'm kind of looking around the stadium and I look at mom like, did we not sell tickets to this game? Like, where is everyone?
Stephanie and I first got there. I remember when we were looking for a house and we had gone to the Harris Teeter, and she looks at me, she goes, I don't see a lot of jerseys around. I don't see a lot of, memorabilia. She goes, I don't even know where I can buy it other than the team store. And I look at her and I said, well, now you know what we got to do. We got to become household names again.
What were your first impressions of Cam?
Fantastic. I remember, number one, how big and talented and just how much he just seemed to, everybody thrived being around him.
People saw Cam coming from Auburn, and Cam had, a short haircut. He had the suits. He looked like $1 million. I think his first couple years, he was on the cover of GQ. But Cam coming out of Auburn, I think he and his team wanted to present him a certain way as the number one pick in the draft, and they wanted teams to be able to see Cam as someone that could be the face of the franchise, which he was.
Luke Kuechly was a tackling machine. But the thing was that he played at Boston College, and Boston College is no one's idea of a superpower in college football. So he wasn't that well known, but he was a guy that made so many tackles and looked so good for a poor team. That's why they wanted him.
And you can imagine what Luke would be like, just not real intimidating looking guy, just kind of an average sized white guy back there playing linebacker. You knew he was focused and you could tell he was smart just by talking to him, a sharp guy. Kind of dorky looking with the curly hair and the glasses.
So I see Luke, and you see the glasses, you see sort of the curly hair, like the mob. He kind of looked like young Roy McIlroy, right? And you're like, there's no way that this guy is this guy.
Even with Cam and Luke in these cornerstone positions, they weren't successful right away. They were 7-9 in 2012, still struggling at some other positions. And Cam Newton and Luke Kuechly were also still coming into their own, but they weren't in their prime quite yet. So by 2013, they had a lot of talent. They had not quite learned how to win the biggest of games. But in 2013, they won the NFC South, had a winning record, lost in the first round of the playoffs. 2014 started terribly. They didn't win a game for 2 months.
He had played poorly, and he was really upset. We had lost. He got into one of his moods, and he was acting the way he was acting. A couple guys came and said something to me about players, and I said, okay. So I go down to the quarterback room, and I get him in the room. It's just he and I start saying, dude, what the hell? Enough's enough, okay? Well, why got to be like this? Why got to act like this? I said, why can't you be like, and I paused for a second. He looks at me and goes, what, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers? He said, Coach, I can't. He said, I got to do it my way. He said, I'll never be like that. And he pointed to his skin. He said, Coach, I'm a black quarterback in this league. And I don't want to change who I am or conform to it. I've got a pretty big burden. I mean, he said this, and we're having this conversation, and I'm listening to him, and it made me realize, he's right.
I said it since day one. I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they They haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to. Now here I am, I'm doing exactly what I want to do, how I want to do it. And when I look in the mirror, it's me. You know what I'm saying? Nobody changed me. Nobody, made me act this certain type of way. And I'm true to my roots.
This is a kid from Atlanta, Georgia, right? This is a kid who was very in tune with who he was and what it meant to be a young African-American male from Atlanta. When we drafted Cam, as an organization, we were very conservative. I mean, from the music we played to how we expected fans to act on game day. I mean, it's well documented. You weren't allowed to take your shirt off in the stadium. So then you bring Cam in, and he was the ultimate disruptor to all that. We had Future and Jeezy, two of the biggest rappers in Atlanta at the time, on our sidelines for games. The music changed. If you looked in the stands, the fan base, became more diverse. We weren't ready in 2011.
When he started doing Superman, no one had done that. No one had the arrogance to do that, and he backed it up. And that was kind of different for us to see that. That wasn't the Southern way.
In 2014, they were 3-8-1, but they had a late run, won 4 games in a row, edged into the playoffs, winning the NFC South for the second year in a row.
It was just, who is this team? We've been that team the whole entire time. We just didn't believe it in ourselves because we didn't really realize that we had the power to execute. Coach Rivera was giving us that the whole time, and he was just waiting because coaches coach and players play.
We were able to beat Arizona right here at home, growing in confidence, went to Seattle, put up a tough fight against the Seattle team that went out and dominated in the Super Bowl that year. But also, it gave us that motivation that we needed for that next season. Like, we get a piece here, we get a piece there. This is going to be a special football team.
I'm blind in my right eye just to start off to kind of clear it up, but it was a tumor on my optic nerve in my eye. It was just chemotherapy. It was 52 rounds of it, just going on for a year.
We were approached by Make-A-Wish at the St. Jude Clinic and offered up, hey, what do you think you want to do? And Braylon had thrown out there, he wanted to be the coach of the Carolina Panthers. And I was like, well, don't you want to think about Disney too? Every kid loves Disney. And he's like, no, I want to be the coach of the Carolina Panthers. Had no clue what was in store for us. But I will tell you, I just clearly remember driving. They had us, it came and picked us up and drove us to the side entrance of the Panther Stadium. He got to go into the locker room before Fan Fest when they were there, and he told him, he's like, I know how you're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Be brave, have the heart, go Cat.
Be brave, have the heart, and go Cats. And I mean, they all went crazy.
I feel like I was the best player on the field, no matter what time or day it was or who I was facing. I always felt that way. It was like an invincible feeling. And that's kind of when I touched the grass. It was my kingdom. It was just, making my own way in a world where, you had to be, kill or be killed. One of those things. It was 100 or you was 100. And for me, I was tired of being the 100. I was tired of being the 100.
Cam is talking trash back and forth, not wanting to throw an interception. We're talking trash back and forth, not wanting to allow them to score or complete passes. And it was, and excuse my French, I'm kicking your ass, or we're kicking your ass today.
Cam is one of those guys who can piss somebody off just by smiling at him and not say one word. He just has that kind of aura about him.
He had this moxie about him to where it's just, all right, this is me, this is who I am, Superman, right? And so, okay, I saw it. I understood what it was. I respected it for what it was. But I don't bow down to no man. Finally, like, I don't go quiet in the night.
Josh got some weird analogies sometimes, man, and that's what you gotta love to hate. But that's him. People who don't really know Josh, he's just I think he's a person that thrives on attention.
Every year you have fights, and you need to get the aggression out, like pent up energy. Guys ain't seen their girlfriends in however long. You're sleeping in a dorm bed and it's hot, and you're stressed out about whether or not you're gonna make the team or not, or if you're gonna be good that year. That fight was none of that. It was, like, I'm him, and I know you think you're him too. So we need to figure out like how this is gonna balance out.
I don't know, like, what took place. I think it was one of the plays that was running, and somebody said something to me, and I blacked out. Like, I went into the dark zone. I went into dark mode, and I just started chirping. But that next play, something happened. Like, my energy was up, and so I just saw black. And so I was in slot, and so they ended up running a bender. I undercutted the bender. He threw it. I picked it off, went back, and then I was like, "What's all that chirping about now? I don't hear any of that stuff." And so he ran up, and he was like, "Listen, you run it to me like that again, it's gonna be some."
Jano is just pointed at him. The point is personal. The Cam that a lot of people do see is he's smiling, he's joking, he's jovial, but he does not like to be made fun of. And I think it's one thing to intercept him, but it's another thing to shove it in his face.
I just saw a 6'5" guy like literally step into my domain, and I wasn't going that way. I wasn't going backwards. I was gonna go forward the way I came. This is the way I'm gonna go out. And so it was through him, and that's all I saw. We started tussling, and next thing you know, the whole offense came and just ramshafted me into oblivion. I think that's why, I slipped down, and so I tried to take his helmet and just literally drag him down with me and hip toss him.
It's one thing, a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman or a linebacker are going at it, or a receiver and a DB go at it. But not every day that you see your 6'6" or 6'5" quarterback, 250 pounds, running down the field and getting into it with a defensive back. They were like at it, and Cam had Josh hung up like a little baby. Like, "Hey man, you want these problems?" And I'm thinking, like, this is bad. Like, Cam might mess up his hand, right? Like, I pulled him back as hard as I could. I just remember it didn't really work.
Come on, get him up. Come on, get him. Come on. Come on. Keep it like that again. I know something. Don't worry about it. Get back.
I remember seeing one photo of Cam standing over Josh with just a picture-perfect smile. And I remember, because the year prior, Cam had been in a car accident. He's laying on the side of the road with a picture-perfect smile. And I just remember thinking, it doesn't matter what this guy does. You will always get a perfect shot of a perfect Cam Newton smile.
I had like no time and energy for like fighting and all the hoopla and all that. Like at that point in practice, I was kind of probably relieved that they were fighting, because it probably took a couple minutes to break it up. They can fight all they want. It just gives me more time to rest.
Of course, Ron has to separate everybody. He's got to say, don't hit the quarterback, but Ron secretly loves it.
I was still hot, like steam. I tried to cool down. I did, to a point where I got into the huddle and coach talked to us and brought everybody up. And I think we broke out. And so next thing I know, I walked up, went to the shower, and we was on the opposite side. And Cam was like, "Hey, look, man, we're going to be fighting every day if we have to. That's what I got to get out of you. That's what you got to get out of me. We're going to do that every day."
I think that moment is what really brought everybody together.
I think we're making a big deal out of nothing. It's no need for me to tell you guys what happened outside of we are better because of it.
There's players, and then there's
your top guys. And Kelvin was definitely one of our top guys. Sometimes if a player gets hurt, he rolls an ankle or something, it's all right, let's move the drill down and keep going. That one stopped practice for a solid 30, 40 minutes, you know what I mean?
Kelvin's injury, I don't remember it so much for the route and when he went down as much as I remember his scream when he went down. So when you hear that, you know what it is. And it's non-contact, slipped on a route, he's going to grab the knee, the blood-curdling scream, and it's like, that's his season.
There was a lot of like the sky is falling feeling externally, and some of that was leaking into the locker room. I think we had enough veterans at that time that we didn't. I think a younger team, we probably would have given that more weight.
It took a little bit of time to sort of recalibrate what we were going to be. Where I think the blessing for that team was it gave Cam the ability to just throw it to whoever was open.
Just jumped over, he got flipped and landed on his knee, and it was like he did it on purpose.
My heart was in my socks. Oh man, but as I was flipping, I was like, hey, I don't know how this is gonna end. And then I'm coming down, I said, hey, I can stick this. So I didn't stick it, but I think I still got a good high rating by the judge.
I know Cam had to be so mad he didn't stick the landing. He kind of got shoved a little bit at the end, right? And so falls. But he just gets up and starts dancing. And it was, again, at the time in the NFL in 2015, there was one quarterback who could do that. And there's no one else who could.
He's going to put his body on the line. I think you want to talk about DNA of a team. That's the DNA of the team.
The biggest magic to all of that was we had the makeup of guys. The recipe of personalities were everyone understood Cam was the center. He was going to get all the attention. He was going to get a lot of the recognition. And we all loved that. We all propped that up. That didn't bother us. Luke Kuechly doesn't need a lot of attention. Ryan Khalil doesn't need a lot of attention. Thomas Davis, I wasn't really an attention guy. Stu. So we knew Cam's greatest value, not only just because he was incredible on the field, but he thrived off the energy of the emotion of the crowd and the fans, and the entertainment value was a big part of his personality.
I think at the time, it's like, okay, that's a cool little thing that they're doing in Charlotte, 4-0. Who cares? Because now they got to go to Seattle, which teams don't win at. And the Carolina Panthers don't beat the Seattle Seahawks.
Damn nuisance. That's what they had been.
And we went there last year and we, pissed down our leg. We didn't get the job done. We weren't ready. We weren't prepared. We didn't execute. Whatever you want to call it, we lost. And we lost in an embarrassing fashion, in my opinion. And there's an opportunity for us to go in there and prove, not just to, spectators and the NFL and the world or whatever you want to call it, but to prove to ourselves that the momentum that we were feeling at the end of last year, this is a chance to really set that in stone and engrave it.
I'll never forget that, how loud that stadium was. I remember coming in at halftime and my ears hurt so bad.
It's a dogfight. We're back and forth. And then the play that everyone remembers is that ball to Greg. He caught that ball and it went from being deafening to just pin drop quiet. And I say it all the time, the best sound in an away stadium is silence, because that means that you guys just did something right.
The moment that touchdown happened, I just left my seat. I ran through the concourse, pushed open the door, and fell down on the sidewalk. My buddy chased after me. We had a Roaring Riot flag, and he just covered me up with the flag, and I'm just laying on the sidewalk in complete joy, really in disbelief of what I just witnessed.
There was this fan
who always had a seat right at the tunnel, the visitors' tunnel, and I think his whole thing was just to yell rude things to the visiting team. He was saying stuff to Greg Olson. He was like, "F you, man." And so when we beat Seahawks, we were going in, Greg found that guy. He was like, "Hey, you." It was fantastic. It was so good.
We might have had some choice words at the end, but listen, we also went into that stadium a lot and walked out on the wrong side of it. So it felt good finally to walk out of that stadium with a win.
After that game, I told Steve Wilkes vividly, I said, the guy, almost like in The Matrix, where Neo's like, he's starting to believe. And that's what I felt with this team, is like all of a sudden we won a game, and I saw the temperament, I saw the guys just like, they're starting to believe.
You kind of see everybody feeling like, okay, this is different. You know what I'm saying? You see guys that you don't normally see hanging out, like out with each other. Everybody, groups going to dinner, people hanging out at other people's houses. Like the camaraderie was just different. You know what I mean? It was something that I've only seen that 1 year, really.
We're talking about keeping this bum out of our game.
Ain't nobody need no deodorant plan. See, when they play me, bro, they gonna need all type of water, you know, towels.
They say you do stupid stuff though. Like people ain't got time for that junk, man. He do all that unnecessary stuff and he still lose. Still losing. Don't even matter.
Hey, only speak to me if you got a
And then he pout.
I really believe that the magic within the cohesiveness within the locker room was a huge part of that. I think that if they didn't have that cohesiveness, that strong bond, I don't think they would have had as much success that year as they did.
TD would be going on about something. Cam would say something. Greg would be holding, all the character and personality of that team had. And Ron would every once in a while look at me. Again, I'm not the only one. I'm sure he said this too. He said, "I just wish I had a normal team." And first few years, I just thought I'd never said a word. Then I started saying it to him. No, you don't. You don't want a normal team. This is the team that you thrive with.
You have all these different backgrounds coming together. You respect each other and you work for a common goal. I mean, I feel like that is the number one takeaway from the 2015 team.
I feel like there are a lot of coaches that would be like, hey, like, let's not be this team that is, taking team pictures on the sideline and, having the quarterback run up and down Hulk Hogan style to hear the crowd. But he was kind of the perfect coach for that, because he allowed these guys and to be who they were and to let them guide who the team became. And that is an underrated skill.
I think that might have been, and I could be mistaken, but I think that was like the birth of the dab at that moment.
This wasn't actually the first time Cam Newton had ever dabbed. It had happened in week 4 against Tampa Bay. People hadn't noticed it that much, but because of the aftermath against Tennessee, that is when the dab really blew up for the first time. Cam had all that end zone celebration stuff against Tennessee, and there's a little bit of a fight and scuffle going on there. So Tennessee Mom is the term we use for this letter written by a lady in Tennessee who went to the Tennessee game, saw all of Cam Newton's theatrics with her 9-year-old daughter, and wrote a letter to the Charlotte Observer, our paper, basically saying these actions were deplorable. There was a lot of fallout, probably not exactly what she intended, but it did bring to the forefront Cam's celebratory antics and also the backlash against them, because there was a backlash.
People were so upset about Cam's celebration. Like, oh, why is he dancing in front of that guy's face? The guy came to him, first of all, trying to say, hey, you can't dance in my end zone. Well, if it's your end zone, then why am I in it? Okay? If you don't want me dancing, then stop me. Stop me from dancing. That should be the message that you send to these kids. It's not, hey, don't come in my house. Well, lock your door. Lock your doors. Put security cameras up.
Cam in particular was getting criticized for how he celebrated. And of course, I think if you're on the other side of that, the losing team, it's annoying. Yes, it's very frustrating. But for us as fans, being on the winning side of it, it was really fun.
If you mad that he's showboating or like celebrating against your team, you should probably talk to the defense and tell them to play better and don't allow him to do those things. But don't attack the man's character and try to make it seem like he's just this bad person, because that's not who he is.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Everyone is, and I can't fault her for that. And it is what it is. If she feel offended, I apologize to her. But at the end of the day, I am who I am.
The charity aspect of Cam Newton is such a huge part of who he was in Charlotte and part of this community that gets overlooked, I think, a lot on the national stage. I think locally, most people know that he donated probably millions of dollars to kids, and mostly kids.
Just kind of drive around, and he always had a ball in his car. He'd see a bunch of kids playing. He'd stop, pull over, jump the fence with the ball, and he'd play with the kids.
There was a little boy in Concord, and one of his teammates had mentioned it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, this little boy's sick. He has cancer." Cam is like, "Well, what does he want?" He's having a Halloween party on his street because they don't know if he's going to be able to make it through Halloween.
The prognosis was not great for Elijah at that time, but because our street and everyone on it knew how much Elijah loved Halloween, they said, "You know what, we're going to have Halloween early for him." So, sorry, sometimes it still just takes me a second. So, we were going to have Halloween early. The weekend comes. We're out. I'm pushing Elijah, through the crowd, and, everyone is trick-or-treating. The street was lined up. All of a sudden, I got a call, and someone said, "Becky, there's someone at the end of the street." And he said his name is Cam. And I was like, "What?" And so I went down to the end of the street, and I saw that it was him. And I immediately just started crying because I knew how much that would mean to Elijah. It was over the moon that Cam Newton was at his house, his party, for him. It couldn't have gotten any better for Elijah. And as Elijah's mom, I couldn't have asked for anything greater than that, especially when my child only had, a month and a half left to live.
One of the biggest things that this city has always thrived on with their football team is when the players are connected to the community. And that 15 team, because of who was on the team, was really well connected, right? So you had Cam doing the football giveaways. You had Greg and his with the hardest yard and receptions for research. You had Khalil and Thomas Davis doing all the things he was doing with youth and youth programs.
One of the things that Stephanie and I wanted to do too is we wanted to get in the community. We wanted to get involved because, always felt that if you can get the fan base behind you, get them to understand we're not here just to take. We want to get by.
I feel like there was a ton of question marks about our team, and nobody really was talking about us until late in the season. And even as we kept extending that streak, I just remember the conversation around us was something to the extent of paper tigers.
The big one for me more than anything else was Dallas. Okay, Tony Romo was coming back. We were undefeated. They had a losing record. They were the favorites. I mean, not that I worry about what the betting line says, but that was great because that's all I needed to use against our players. Because I got up in front of them. I said, "Are you effing kidding me? This one guy is better than all 53 of you guys. One guy's going to make we're undefeated and they aren't. And one guy's better than our 53. And that's all I needed to poke the bear."
We were pissed off. Like I said, we felt disrespected. Like I'm like, I don't know what the hell they know or what they think that Romo is going to bring to this table, but we are for real.
I remember we're warming up as a team, and so we're stretching. And everyone's kind of in their line, and the coaches kind of go by and give dabs and say good luck or whatever. And I'm stretching. And I remember Wilkes came up to me and he goes, "I had a dream last night. When you get this interception, cut it back." And I'm like, okay, all right.
And Kirk Coleman gets that pick 1 minute into the game. It's like, what do you guys think was going to happen?
The cherry on top of that game was Luke getting that pick from Romo and him going out of his way trying to find Romo so he could stiff arm him. I'll never forget watching it.
Luke had a great sense of always being able to get one more shot on the quarterback. He somehow punched the quarterback after scoring a touchdown in the end zone. He somehow like slowed down just enough so he could get one more shot. And it really wasn't a stiff arm as much as just punching Romo right in the face.
You got to find it. You got to get a piece. We always say get a piece of the quarterback.
I think when we beat Dallas on Thanksgiving, that was the first time like the nation got to see, man, who are these guys? Like, they're brash, they're in your face. Kuechly picking that ball off and stiff arming Tony Romo on the way to the end zone, and you know, Cam dancing after his end zone for his grandmother. And I mean, it was just, that was the day that the 15 Panthers were introduced to the country.
I remember when I was in high school, I used to look up to guys that, you know, do things, and I tried to mimic. And now they're doing the things that I do. So it puts a lot of, you know, not necessarily pressure, but, you know, you see, you know, people are looking at you, whether you want them to or not. And, you know, when I see people doing the celebration that I do, it just makes me happy.
Everybody like, oh, why are you guys dancing in the end zone? Why are you dabbing? What does even dab mean? Like, is that a drug? And it's like, no, it's a dance. And eventually your kids will be doing this out, so you better get ready.
Dabbing took over the world. It wasn't just in Charlotte. It wasn't just a celebration for Panthers fans after a touchdown. I mean, the dab on them long sleeve t-shirt, grandmas were doing it, kids were doing it.
You could not take a group picture of Panthers fans without being like, and now dab.
When we won the NFC South, we were in New Orleans and we had beaten the Saints. And Mr. Richards, you know, we were in the suite with Mr. Richardson, and they took us all down into the locker room when they were handing out the hats, and everyone was freaking out and dabbing. Dabbing was a thing then. And then I remember Mr. Richardson dabbed in the middle of all the guys, and they all went nuts.
But I knew this city was different when on the Jumbotron I saw like an 80-year-old older white lady doing the dab. She was just, I was like, oh, this is different times. This is different times.
Everywhere we went, that's what defenses were trying to prevent. They were trying to prevent Cam from dabbing in their end zone.
Steve Wilkes, right? This is all him, so it's all you. It's your fault this even happened. He tells this story the night before we even go play these guys.
We're up in New York, and he had shared this story about when he was a young kid growing up in West Charlotte, as he would say, West Charlotte. The one thing about their house was positioned as a cut through. And so a lot of people would want to cut through their yard to get to the other side. Well, cutting through the yard would create those paths, which would take away the yard. The way he described it is, one day, nobody is going to cut through our yard anymore. He got out his bat and made sure that nobody cut through this yard.
And then I think Marcus Ball took it to a whole new level.
Marcus Ball got the bat for Lewis. I kid you not. I grabbed the bat from Marcus Ball at that time, and then I took it and I started putting it on my head, just locking the freak in. It was so cinematic, like you can't make it up.
I wish I would have known about it before pregame warm-ups, to be honest with you. I'm out on the field, and you know, I see this bat situation, and I'm like, you know, what is this about?
Odell Beckham Jr. and the Giants, they don't know Steve Wilkes' story from West Charlotte. They don't know that this was some motivational tool before. And so I would, if I were an opponent, I would be like, what does this dude do? I've never seen this on a football field before.
This is a true, actually, drag out dog fight. And so you want it, I'm giving it to him. And that's what my mindset was at that point. I didn't care about the game. I went straight for his face and I just threw him off to the ground. It was just one of those plays where he just caught. And then I looked up to the fans in the stands like, this is what you want? This is what you gonna get. You gonna be Michael Jackson, go around and dance and play and do all the other stuff, and not be a football player and not train the way you're supposed to train. It goes ashore. And I hope I pull back the mask, hope I pull back the face of what it do really is.
He started going into, I hope today that we unmasked who the real Odell Beckham is. I hope we pulled the skin back on who this man really is. He hasn't been through the wars and the battles that we've been through. And I literally just turned. Once I heard that, I just turned and walked to the other side of the locker. He was big heart, great kid, but man, he was out there. It got, Josh's post-game press conferences got so bad that I told Ryan Anderson and some of our other staff, like, don't even stand near the media gaggle, because I don't want anybody from our staff in any of these videos where it looks like we might have influence Josh.
After that, though, the league made sure that they let our organization, our coaches know that that's not what we were going to do. The bat was not supposed to make it on any more trips. I can say now that the bat did make it on more trips.
So the bat was just one incident for this team that was really developing this sort of camaraderie that no matter how much you spend on a team, money can't buy it. But this team was starting to enjoy each other so much. They had these offbeat ways of actually just doing stuff that you wouldn't really think that an NFL team of grown men would do.
Jordan Gross is actually the one who started that. He brought in a Nerf hoop one day, and it was just us sitting at our lockers, just taking shots from the lockers. And then it naturally turned into a competitive game. Just sort of turned into like a regional pig tournament that was just by those lockers. And then other guys wanted to get in on it. And so we ended up doing like a March Madness style bracket. And you had to buy in, and we always made the rookies go collect the money, and veterans would always mess with the rookies that they weren't going to pay. And then we would tell the rookies, like, you better collect that money, otherwise you're paying it. And so they would be stressed out until the guy would actually pay it. It was like $20. You know, it's funny. The guys never really cared about the money. The thing they wanted the most was that cardboard bracket.
The number one thing, the best thing that you can get if you're a Carolina Panther, you know, obviously you want to win a Super Bowl, but is the pig bracket.
That was Ryan and Jordan's kind of baby. They loved the pig tournament. Set up that mini hoop, they tape it along the wall, and you had to play.
And then what happens is when you lose, you have to go to the board and sign, you got to put your autograph on it. So that's why guys would love it, because it would have your name going all the way to the championship game, and every guy would have to sign it. And a lot of guys framed it.
This is how important that was to me. I got it framed here. I got the net and everything. I had to make sure to cut down the net.
Yeah, it was something stupid. It was small. It was fun. But to us, it was a big deal.
I see so much of my game in today's pig tournaments. That's how much I impact. It's players that change the game, and it's players that get the game changed on them.
I think we were actually a little relieved maybe that we lost that Atlanta game. Obviously, I know the fans and everyone, you're talking, you know, let's go undefeated and all that. Don't get me wrong, we were trying to win all the games, but we just played terribly and it didn't go our way.
We took it on the chin. You know what I'm saying? We didn't let it deter us from what we were really trying to do. I think it was a good thing that we did lose. It gave us motivation to say, hey, we can't be beat, so we got to put it together. And I think once the playoffs started, that showed that we really put it together.
I was the honorary captain for the Seattle playoff game in Charlotte, and that was awesome. My wife and my girls, we went up and on the sideline before the game, walking out,
just feeling that energy.
And the first play of the game, it was about 60-something yard run, I believe. I got up, and it was just so electric. I just felt nothing but electricity in my body.
So just a couple of plays later, one of the very biggest plays of this game occurs.
Second and long. 9 times out of 10 is going to be a pass. Got off the ball, caught his wrist, swimmed over, and now I think Marshawn Lynch ran like a little inside route. I got back there so fast. It really was so fast, and like he started taking off. I knew he got it off because I tackled him. I knew he got it off. I just didn't know if it was a bat down, but I just heard the crowd going crazy.
KK makes a great play. I was just in the right spot at the right time on this play. The hardest thing to do is just catch it.
Luke Kuechly picks off Russell Wilson, goes into the end zone, pick six, touchdown.
We were in sector 525, jumping up and down. And I remember like the thought going through my head of like, it feels like the upper deck is going to collapse because it was so loud and everybody was they were just going insane. And it was like, is it still safe up here?
31-0 at halftime. Seems like a blowout. Everyone's having a great time in the stands, and suddenly it turns into a nail-biter. 31-24. Russell Wilson leads them all the way back, and with 1:12 to go, Seattle's trying an onside kick, which if they get, they're probably going to score again and send this game into overtime.
At that point, Seattle had figured some out. We couldn't stop nothing they were doing, and it was just, man, I'm like, you can't let them get this damn ball back.
The running joke on that team was that Thomas Davis had like the worst hands on the team, and yet he was always on the hands team. And here goes Thomas, catches it perfectly, kind of lands on his head, like this whole sort of chaos.
Let me tell you what's so crazy about this play. Every Saturday, every single Saturday, they used to give me a hard time about being the guy that our coach selected to be in that position, because he had a ton of faith in me in being the guy that in this moment right here, that would not be afraid of that moment to do whatever was necessary to come away with that football.
Most electric I see in the city. Everybody was involved, from the people at my kids' school to the people that worked in downtown. There was Panther flags all over the place, heat pounding. We had theme songs going all over.
Dover Daybreak Grill did our food at the time. They had like a little fire pit, and Norm's out there with tongs with the cardinal hat wrists on the grill.
Head to the stadium, sun's about to go down, and you see people. I lived in a condo uptown at the Trademark building, so when I hit the elevator, I can see the stadium, and I can see people coming to the city, and I can see people starting to tailgate there. I can see people walking to the bars pregame over there. I can see all the action happening, all for us.
Felt so big and so special, and it wasn't like that always. And I think it just shows, if you're good in this city, like, we have the fans, we have the energy, we have the people that it could be as loud as anywhere, it could be as exciting as anywhere.
Oh my gosh, Arizona. Ooh-wee. Listen, we can party. And I'm talking about they brought the glow sticks and everything else with them.
The NFC Championship game was a total demolition. I thought it was the best game they played all season. 49-15, just absolutely torched Arizona.
After that game, man, we were, the ceremony, seeing, our guys standing up there with the trophy, put a little shirt on over my pads. I'm over there hanging out with Toad, Boz. Everybody takes a lap around the stadium every time we win a playoff game. And so after that game, we took a lap around the stadium, shaking all the fans' hands, signing autographs. And, I wish I can just go back and just put it all in a bottle.
But there was one big asterisk in this game. Thomas Davis broke his arm.
Me and Luke both were converging in on the tight end. He wasn't going to get the first down. Our trainer came out and he asked me instantly, "What do you think, bud?" I said, "RV is broken."
When the NFC Championship game was ending and when the result was pretty much in hand,
that's where my mind went, honestly, to Thomas. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe that we're going to the Super Bowl and Thomas Davis is not going to play.
Everybody that was with me was like, gosh, like, you know, they're going to the Super Bowl. He won't be able to play. I said, who won't be able to play? And they said, T, you broke his arm. I'm like, oh, he's going to play. He's going to play. Even if the doctors told him no, he was going to figure out a way.
Pat Connor, he did an assessment of where it was broken at. He's like you broke it in, not that there's ever a right spot to break it in, but you broke it in the right spot. He's like, because we could do surgery at 6 a.m. in the morning and kind of start the process, and you could have a chance to play in the Super Bowl. He's like, it's going to come down to a pain tolerance thing. Oh, I'm like, this is a no-brainer then. I'll see you at 6 a.m. I played every single snap in the Super Bowl after breaking my arm in the NFC Championship game.
Are they already talking about, like, how we're going to cover the parade?
Yes. How we're going to cover the parade. Who's going to be on call that day, or who's going to be on the schedule, which was, of course, it was all hands on deck. City had started like mapping out what streets were going to be blocked off. And yeah, the whole Charlotte was planning for the parade.
I went into the game thinking we were going to win. Like, knowing football and knowing the Broncos and watching some of their film, and I'm like, we're going to win this game. And I know everybody always says, you know, the refs cheated or this happened or this, We were supposed to win that game.
I just simply thought, one, they're not going to be able to stop Cam in this offense, but in the off chance that they could stop him, they can't score enough points. Peyton Manning's arm can't get them enough points.
Peyton Manning, you know, he was on his last arm, literally.
We're going to play this game for multiple reasons and multiple people. From the forefathers that played in the Super Bowl before that didn't win, and also the people who are backing us in the 704.
It was almost kind of like when we came out of the tunnel, I was expecting a home game, a home playoff game, but it was a neutral site. It was so neutral that it was like very spectator-ish, you know?
The crowd in a suburban stadium was not into the game. It didn't feel like a Super Bowl at that game. First of all, you had to stay in San Francisco and then drive like 25 miles to a suburban stadium, which is another reason I'm so glad we didn't build our football stadium out in the suburbias. This just felt like, it felt sterile. The whole game felt like, you know, everyone there is someone who can afford $2,000 tickets.
Really all started with that missed call in the first half of the game.
I saw the play on the replay and I'm like, man, it looked like he caught it.
They reviewed the play. I don't know how you can go back, review that play and say that he didn't catch that ball.
Everybody in the world knows that was a catch by Jericho.
That was the call right there that I felt like, all right, like, come on now.
That was a catch. I mean, if you saw enough TV angles to tell you that was a catch.
Oh, there's no doubt. Of course, Jericho caught it. I don't know that anyone, is that even really in dispute anymore?
So initially when the ball hit, boom, just try to bring it back up to me at that point and was able to do that, kind of squeeze it as I was going to the ground, make sure I had control of it when I hit the ground. And then to try and hurry up and show that I made the catch, I rolled over. And so when they saw me roll over, and when I got to this point, the ball moved right while I'm rolling over. I knew I caught it, and everyone is kind of coming over. Heck of a catch, big time catch, and this and that, slapping my head, and he's getting the same thing from upstairs, like, yeah, that's an absolute catch, and things of that nature. Then they come back with the review, and I'm like, you know, everyone's looking around like, what is going on? 2 plays later.
Von Miller is a cyborg.
I mean, listen, you know, we knew we had to block Von Miller. I mean, you know, it's not like rocket science.
The reason why he is the player that he is he has such an amazing get off. His get off is incredible. It's as best as I've ever seen. It was my first step. My very first step was what got me beat. Is I understepped it. I didn't gain as much ground as I was wanting to.
You get the strip sack and, you know, they score.
They score right away, right? And so now you're in the hole versus the top-ranked defense in the NFL, right? 10-0 lead.
That first down happens, the play call ain't the same for that next play at midfield. So they never get that touchdown. It's a different football game. So you can't tell me that one play don't make a difference.
What do you think of the conspiracy theory that the NFL wanted the Broncos to win?
I believe it 100%. I mean, you talking about Peyton Manning retiring, going out on top. You know, it's one of those things where, like, I believe that was the case. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no way you don't get one of those calls in your favor. I believe that to a certain degree, the NFL can be swayed, you know what I'm saying, with enough power in politics.
I don't think it was no way they was not letting Peyton out of there without a W.
Peyton Manning going out on top component, it had all the makings of that.
I don't buy into that. We have one group of people to blame for not winning that game, and it was the players on the field. That's it. We couldn't have played worse in a season where we probably couldn't have played better.
Why didn't it work out?
Cam not following that football. Nah, I was playing. I'm joking.
Devin Funchess was running a corner route, and he's open on the film, but Cam's loading up. He created nice separation at the route. He's there. We didn't get it blocked.
I don't even know. I've never actually watched the game fully, but I can imagine that it was probably my first step. I didn't have a very good first step. And with his speed and his ability to get off, if you're a half click behind, you're in trouble.
This is what I would say about the Remmers and the Von Miller without getting into like the real X's and O's of who's supposed to do what. We all sucked. Listen, when you give up strip sacks, it's on everyone. It's on the offensive line. It's on guys not getting open. It's on the quarterback. It's on the backs. It's a collective failure.
At the end, controversially, in our town, Cam didn't jump.
The fumble. The fumble was the ball was just kind of sitting there. It felt like anyway. We replayed it over and over again. I was working with Phil Simms, and he did a fantastic job talking about how he thought that Cam should have reacted quicker and jumped in there a little sooner.
Cam not jumping on the fumble looked terrible. In the moment, you're like, why? What are you doing?
We spend your entire NFL career, probably even going back to college and high school, telling the quarterbacks there's a ball on the ground, especially in the action in the pocket, don't fall on it. In practice, we don't want you to break a hand or anything like that. I always wondered, was that just a natural human instinct?
To people who want to throw fuel on Cam and hate on Cam, that's all they talk about, and that's all they remember. As soon as that Super Bowl comes up, it's not about the catch that was ruled incomplete or the inability to stop Von Miller, who was absolutely incredible that game. It's Cam didn't dive on the ball.
What did you think at the time?
Yeah.
How that went?
It doesn't bother me, because if you know Cam and you've been around him at all, you know that the competitive side and how badly he wants to win. I don't question anything that Cam ever did. There's plenty of times when you can look at plays during his career where he's running the ball and he gets hit by 6 or 7 guys and continues to fight and gets hit by 5 or 6 more guys and leans forward and takes a couple more shots and gets a first down. Like, there's 100 of those. So for people to think that it didn't matter to him, I don't buy into that.
He has said it over and over. If he had the opportunity to rethink that or relive that moment, he would have tore everything in his body to try to get that ball back. And it's how the game goes, man. You have a split second to make a decision that could ultimately affect or make a difference in really the legacy of your career. And you just got to make the right decision every single time. And people don't understand how tough that can be. So I don't look back and say that, oh, it's Cam's fault, because one thing I know for certain, had we not had Cam, we're never in that position anyway.
Josh Norman, when the game had ended, he had taken off his jersey and pads, and he was just in kind of like a black undershirt and his pants and cleats, and he was sitting on the top of the player bench. And, you know, I saw him start to break down and cry. So then tears started coming out of my eyes because I felt that pain. You know, it's not even just sorrow, like it hurt.
He didn't say anything. He was quiet. And normally he would talk. Even after a loss, he would still talk to me. He didn't say anything. So that was different. You gonna make me cry.
It hurt for sure. We had some older players in the locker room that were like really hurt by it, and even some tears shed for sure. But then we had some younger players like, man, y'all stop crying, we'll be back. But like, they just didn't understand like that this is a once in a lifetime. Like, it's not often that people can go 3-4 Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? That's not a ordinary thing.
His press conference afterwards, why do you think it?
He was crushed. He was absolutely crushed. If you talk to him, you realize just how crushed he was, because I promise you, he feels like he let a lot of people down.
Cam came out, and you remember he sat there, and he was not giving anybody any good answers about anything. And I asked him, what do you want to say to your fans back at home? Like a softball, say something, Cam. And he did not say anything encouraging or supportive or even thank you to the fans. And I was pretty disappointed in that moment as a fan and as they're sort of representing fans. Like, you've had all of this support and encouragement for the whole season, and it didn't go our way, but, you know, talk to your fans.
That was probably the worst night of my professional career, but I really take full responsibility for that press conference. I should have just let him go through his normal routine. He got killed nationally for how he handled the post game, which another thing, it's like, I get it, but everybody was saying be professional, be professional. I understand that, accept losing. But people also don't realize what someone like Cam had put into just getting to that moment. Getting that moment, you know, being dismissed from Florida, having to leave Florida, having to go to junior college where, you know, I mean, playing with junior college is a long way from Gainesville and the SEC, fighting back, having a great year in junior college, getting Auburn to give him a chance, go there, have everything surrounding that year, getting criticized for all these different things, and then fighting through that, winning the Heisman, winning a national title, and then being drafted by the Panthers. And even then, having people say you didn't deserve to go number 1 overall. And then to fight through that, win the MVP, and get to the ultimate stage, and you're 60 minutes away from winning a Lombardi and having that loss, that's hard. I don't care what anybody says, that's hard. And then having to go up, and then people want you to act professional and win and lose with grace. And I get all those things, I really do. But it's, you know, I do totally understand his side of it too. You know, he was devastated in that moment.
To this day, it's like, God, we let a lot of people down. But then afterwards, when we had lost, came back, I really got a sense of what they were saying. The thing that's been tremendous is that the way the fans, you know, and you know, I say, I wish we could have won. That's okay, Coach. That year, I'll never forget it.
The ride was still like worth it, right?
Yeah, totally worth it. My husband, I remember being on the phone with him like, I am never, ever getting this invested in a team again. I am never watching football again. And he was like, this is what it means to be a fan. Most of the time it's heartbreak. That always stuck with me. Like, most of the time it's heartbreak. But was it worth it? Yes, it was so much fun.
Yeah, it sucks, but it was a fantastic season. It was fun. That's why you play, is because the game's fun. You got to remember it as a whole, not just one moment. You know?
If we could go back and do it all over again, even if the outcome was going to be the same, absolutely, we'd do it again. A million times over.
You want ever forget that time or that moment. I guarantee you, when people was in Charlotte, they can go as far as the ends of this earth and come back, and they still remember exactly where they was at, the time, the date of when all those things transpired.
It was magical. That's really the word that keeps coming to me when people ask me about that season. It was just pure magic. I don't know that anything like that will ever be recreated.
But when you look back, sometimes at the moment it really sucks. But you know, when you look back, it's like, wow, look at what we did, and we put Charlotte on the map. That's the most incredible group of guys that played football that I've ever seen in my life. I don't think they'll ever know how thankful I am that they gave him that experience and got us through that year.
I believe the Carolina Panthers will eventually be a Super Bowl winning team, and that team's going to be able to win looking back at history and have something to learn from. And so, Carolina Panthers, man, what a time to be alive.
I think a lot of times when you're working and you're doing something that you're getting paid for, you lose sight of the ability to have fun doing it. But we had so much fun as a football team that year that it just never ever felt like work. It just felt like every single day you got to live out a dream. And that's what the 2015 season was like for us.